All right, in this video, I'm going to be going over the differences between the part workbench and the part design workbench. These are not my opinions. These are notes that I've taken off Reddit and forums. So if any of this is incorrect, it's incorrect, right? So just be aware of that. I haven't used these things. I'm just trying to understand the differences between them. Reference: PD is part design workbench. P is part workbench. The two workbenches have fundamentally different jobs. They don't just use different tools. They follow a completely different set of rules and philosophies. Differences in the part design workbench. Part design workbench is built around around one central critical concept: the body. A body is not just a shape; it is a smart container for creating one single connected object. Everything you do in part design happens inside this container and must follow its rules. The golden rule of the body is every feature you add must be physically connected to the rest of the body. You cannot have two separate floating pieces inside one body. Part design has a linear editable history. The most powerful thing about part design is that it records every single action as a sequential editable step in the timeline. Part design uses bodies. A body contains a single continuous object. It is incremental, meaning that the successive operations complement each other to make a hole in a cube. You make a cube, then a negative cylinder. Meaning that negative cylinder. Part design is about building up a part from features which are made from sketches which use constraints. Part design has a more structured workflow than the part workbench. Part design is easier for solid modeling. Part design is less flexible. Part design workbench main benefit is that it reduces the number of operations that is needed to create the finished model. Part design only allows for solid objects. Part design, you work with one version of your objects. Part design is essentially a proper modern CAD workbench where everything is built for suitable sketches and that can be transformed into various positive and negative elements in a body. Part design workbench has a more structured workflow than the part workbench. Part design workbench is easier for solid modeling. Part design is less flexible. Part design main benefit is that it reduces number yada yada yada. Only allows for solid objects. Offer more speed. Part design is limited compared to the part workbench. So might as well just delete that since that's just repeating itself. Differences in the part workbench. Part workbench has no concept of a body or container. It's an open workshop where you can work with multiple completely independent objects. Part workbench, there's no rules. Objects can be anywhere. They don't need to touch. They can even pass right through each other. Part workbench does not need to create a linear timeline. It creates a dependency tree. Part workbench doesn't have a body, and the objects don't need to touch each other. You make a cube, then a cylinder, and you have a Boolean subtraction. Part workbench uses independent sketches to draw in Sketcher Workbench, except that since version 1, the icon refers to the sketcher, although the sketches remain independent. Part workbench is about creating things from solid geometry. Part workbench, you work with a multitude of single steps, organizing units of work rather than a straightforward construction history. Part workbench works very well with other workbenches. Part workbench is based on simpler, more primitive approach to CAD called CSG, or constructive solid geometry. Differences. With part workbench, objects are inherently independent. You can subtract one from the other. With part design, there can't be two independent objects. You must create two bodies and perform a Boolean subtraction between the two bodies. With part design, you would pocket a hole through the body, while in part you would model a cylinder and cut it through the rest of the part. Part workbench is about creating things from solid geometry. Part design is about building out features which are made from sketches using constraints. What is the single most important differences between the part workbench and the part design workbench? Part design workbench records every single action as a sequential editable step in a timeline. Part workbench does not create a linear timeline. It creates a dependency tree. So there you go. Those are my notes as to what the differences are between the part design, the part workbench, and the part design workbench, and what the differences are. So there you go.